Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Bookmarch, and this is my bookish week for Sunday, November 23rd. Yeah, I think it's the 23rd. And I've got several books to talk to you about. That hasn't happened in a while, but I do. And a few of them were long-term reading projects, and one of them was my book group book, another one was a book I quickly picked up, blah, blah, blah. And I have one book on the go that I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. So, other than finishing books, I haven't really done anything in a bookish way. No, I don't think I've ordered some books. I'll talk to you about that in a different video. Yeah, there's some up here that I ordered right there. But there's another order that I will talk to you about individually. It's just a teaser, but I'm not even going to get into details, so I shouldn't have even bothered to talk about that. But quite honestly, in New England, I get out of work at 4 o'clock. By the time I get home, it's basically dark. So when I get home from work, I don't feel like going out. I don't feel like going shopping. I don't really want to do anything, and it's cold. So I get home from work and I just want to hunker in and stay inside and get dinner and chill and read what I have. I did a pretty massive unhaul. You can see a lot of space up here. There's some over here. There's a lot more over there. But there's empty space, and I feel better. I feel lighter because I've got a lot of books in my house. And I'm getting to a point in my life where, do I really need to keep them all? I love my books. I love my books. But I started to look around, and it's almost like, I don't know if you've heard of Swedish death cleaning, but it's a thing. And it's basically where people go around their house and they just get rid of all kinds of stuff towards a minimalist lifestyle, which I love the idea of. I'm not a maximalist, and sometimes I get caught up in that. But anyway, going back to Swedish death cleaning, it's where people get to a place in their life where they get rid of so much stuff, going towards minimalism in order to save their adult children from having to clean out all their stuff after their death. And that's on my mind, but it's also mentally liberating for me because I am a person who craves tranquility, and tranquility to me means less clutter. And as much as I love books, as much as I love my books, I still have probably about 600 books in my very small apartment. I will always have books. I will probably always have at least that many in my apartment, in my home. There was a point where I had double that. Much bigger house, and it wasn't a giant house, but it was a lot more space than what I have now. But I probably had upwards of 1,200 books. What I have now is mentally manageable to me, and I might even be getting rid of a lot more. I'm in my bedroom right now, and these shelves used to be in my old dining room in my previous house, and I used to film in front of these, but this is a wall of bookcases. My bedroom is very small, and the reason I took the smaller bedroom when I moved in here was because it had a plain wall that would fit this whole arrangement of shelves. I am thinking of downsizing this, donating this, putting it back, giving it back to my ex-husband. Even though it's mine, I can let it go. I'm okay with that. And putting smaller shelves to still keep a lot of these books, but not all of them, and I keep doing this. So that's the bookish stuff I've been doing, and I will continue to unhaul. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Let me talk to you about the books now. About a week or so ago, I finished The Mad Wife by Megan Church. This was my book group book with the Critical Chicks, and we met last night and talked about this. This was such a funky book. This is about Lulu Mayfield, and she is a stereotypical 50s housewife with the pearls and the skirt and the apron, probably has high heels on. Your typical June Cleaver. If you're not from the U.S. and are not familiar with the 50s show Leave It to Beaver, look up June Cleaver on Google or the internet and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this gave me very, much Stepford Wives vibes for the first half of the book. The second half was like, what the hell did I just read? And I was flipping backwards. What did I miss? What have I missed? What the hell did I just read? But this starts off with Lulu's story, and she's a young wife. She has a 4-year-old son. She gets pregnant with her next baby. This is all in the very beginning. And she is the wife that wants to please her husband, wants to make him all the good dinners, wants to be the hostess in the neighborhood. She is the queen in the neighborhood for making Jell-O molds, for making these concoctions of molded food. If that doesn't scream 50s, I don't know what does. But it's not as humorous or as pleasant a story as I initially thought it was going to be. It's kind of got a depressive tone a little bit. It's about a woman whose only expectation in life from others, from the outside, is to be the consummate 50s housewife, to entertain her husband's business associates, to raise their son, to form friendships with the other housewives in the neighborhood, to play cards, that type of thing. And so it was good. The writing was good. I don't remember how many stars I gave it on Goodreads. 4, maybe? 4-ish, 3.5. But this is a book where you think you know what's happening. You think Lulu's voice is credible. And then, of course, the second half hits you and it's like, whoa, didn't see it coming. So it was very good writing. It wasn't, wasn't a stellar book for me. I did enjoy my reading experience. It was a fantastic book for discussion, because when you have a group of 8 women in 2025 talking about a book about a stereotypical 1950s young married housewife, lots of things to talk about. And one of my good friends, Michelle, brought her mother's Betty Crocker cookbook from the 1970s, and she was reading some of the descriptions that came in front of the recipes. It was friggin' hilarious. So funny. The next book I finished was John Irving's The Cider House Rules. This was for the World According to John Irving read-along. And if anybody has not finished it and doesn't want to watch my review of this, that's fine. The last week is this current week. This was a reread for me. Absolutely love this book. John Irving is a favorite of mine. If you haven't guessed, I've gushed about him so many times. But this is the story of Dr. Wilbur Larch, who runs an orphanage and is also a gynecologist and an abortionist in the 40s. And his protege is Homer Wells. Homer is an orphan who was brought to the orphanage as an infant, and he was raised by Dr. Larch, Nurse Edna, and Nurse Angela, and he is a favorite. He was adopted out 2 or 3 times and returned each time. One of the times his adoptive parents died suddenly, and he had to go back to the orphanage. Well, Dr. Larch is mentoring him to be a gynecologist and an abortionist. Homer decides he doesn't want to perform abortions, but he will deliver babies. But he doesn't have a problem with Dr. Larch performing abortions. And the main crux of this book is Irving's commentary on women's rights to choose. It is a fantastic story filled with weird, eccentric, lovable, hateable characters, and the story is deep and rich. Irving's writing is some of my favorite. He's absolutely hilarious. He tells us about the lives of the orphans, boys and girls. He talks to us about Dr. Wilbur Larch and how he came into this vocation. He tells us of his growing feelings of fatherly love for Homer Wells. He tells us about Homer Wells' decision and what his life becomes. There is so much to think about, to talk about. There is so much in here to read and to really contemplate regarding abortion and women's rights to choose. Dr. Larch is kind of an abortion hero in this novel. And And it's consummate John Irving. I absolutely love this book. It's, gosh, I don't even know. I dog-eared a few things, and I'm wondering if I should read them. Let me see. There's a lot that Dr. Larch tries to teach Homer about women and about, I'm not going to read any, I can't find them fast enough, but about women's rights and how women should have more control over their bodies, but over their family planning, and why women have ended up in these situations where they're desperate. They either have to give up a full-term baby to the orphanage, or they decide to have an abortion. And one of the things that I love that Wilbur Larch talks about is he often delivers babies and then just as often delivers mothers. So, fantastic book. I loved it. John Irving is not for everybody, but he is for me, always has been, and I absolutely love the Cider House Rules. The next book, this is a side project for the Critical Chicks book group. We through the year pick up a few really chunky classics, or in this case, a modern classic, and read it on the side. Not all of our book group participates, but a lot of us did for this one. I finished Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth. This is a book set in the 1100s in England, and it's talking about the building of a massive cathedral. It is a epic of a book. It is talks to us about the prior of Kingsbridge, Philip. And he's a devout and resourceful monk, driven to build the greatest Gothic cathedral the world has ever known. Tom is his master builder, and Tom's only goal in life was to be the master mason on a cathedral project, and he becomes that. There's so much in here. There's so many stories in here. It's an epic, multi-generational book. And Ken Follett had previously been a spy novelist, or not necessarily a thriller, but a spy novelist, kind of thrillerish. And this book kind of propelled him into mainstream multi-mega stardom. And he has several other follow-ups to this, plus a prequel. I really, really liked this book. I almost loved it. I loved it in the beginning. But Ken Follett is a male's writer. There are descriptions of women in here that are cringeworthy. There are sex scenes that are cringeworthy. There is much sexual violence in this book. There are depictions of violence and gore and battles and killing. All of that wraps into the story, but the way he describes women and the way he describes sexual situations is highly problematic. And quite honestly, a lot of that happens in the latter half of the book, but there is a pretty graphic and disturbing rape scene towards the beginning. There are a few rape scenes, and there are a few scenes of what men do to women. So that is very troubling. It's very much a story of a lot of different characters, men and women, children of male and female genders. Some of it is depicting very strong characters. Others, like I said, is depicting very problematic caricatures of women and girls. So, really interesting reading experience. I did enjoy the story. I felt that the ending was extremely anticlimactic to the point where it really pissed me off, because I wanted certain resolutions that I did not get. Very good writing. Not my favorite kind of writing, but very good. He does know how to plot a story. Is plot a verb? And so I did enjoy the reading experience, and I enjoyed gushing over certain pieces of it and laughing over certain pieces of it and getting pissed over certain pieces of it with my book group. So that was mostly a successful reading experience. The last book I finished was on my Kindle. Let's see if I can get to this fast enough. I will try to keep rambling as I'm opening my Kindle. This is Kevin Wilson's Now Is Not the Time to Panic. I just finished this yesterday. This is such a weird book. Kevin Wilson is a weird author. He writes weird stories. I also read Nothing to See Here about the burning twins, the twins that could spontaneously combust. Very weird. Very, very weird. This is the story of two teenagers. This is Frankie and what's his name? gosh, I forgot his name. I wish I remembered it. Maybe I'll put it in a text down below. They are 16-year-olds spending the summer together, and they decide to create a piece of art. Frankie is a girl, and she has 3 brothers. They're triplets. And they, one time for a prank, stole a full-size copy machine, and they hid it in their garage. Well, Frankie, I think his name is Ezra, and her male best friend, Ezra, I think. I'm hoping I get that name right. By this point in the video, I will have double-checked that. They find the copier buried under a bunch of stuff, and they decide they want to create a piece of art and duplicate it. Frankie is a writer, and Ezra is an illustrator, an artist. And so she comes up with this phrase, and he comes up with the drawing, and they put this poster together, and they make hundreds of copies of it. And they decide to tape it all around their town, basically because they want some meaning in their life. They want the summer together to mean something. Both of them come from very traumatic backgrounds. Both of their fathers left the families after infidelity. They both live with their mothers, and there's a lot of backstory to that. It's a really weird situation. Now is not the time to panic refers to the repercussions of them posting these posters all over their town, and what happens to people. It's kind of like a frenzy starts to happen, and it's just so weird. But it talks about art, it talks about friendship and family, it talks about young people just looking for meaning in their lives and what becomes of their futures because of it. He's a really weird, I keep saying weird, but he really is. And this book kept me reading. I didn't love it, but it kept me reading, and there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of themes here. And yeah, it was a very fast read. So I don't think I'll read another Kevin Wilson book, not because he's awful, but because I've read 2 of them and I'm good. But this one, I had it on my Kindle, and I thought, I'm going to try it. And the reading did kind of pull me right in. So another pleasant reading experience. I am currently reading one book. Why in the hell I've gone this far in life without reading this book is beyond me. But I am in the middle of Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Oh man, my daughter read pieces of this in middle school. Now, that's the weird thing, is a lot of schools these days, I'm noticing, don't assign whole books to kids. They take excerpts. And she was reading this during COVID, so she was reading excerpts online, and they were talking about it and discussing it. And I'm like, this sucks that they're just not reading the whole book. It's not a long book, and it's definitely middle age appropriate. I'm reading it, and I'm blown away, absolutely blown away. But I, for some reason, never read it in school. It's been on my shelf forever. I decided to pick it up because it was calling to me, and I'm halfway through and I'm just speechless. So I'll have this review probably next week. And what I really want to do is, what I was thinking about doing is, when I finish this book, I'd like to read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley. And then I want to reread 1984 for the umpteenth time. 1984, I believe, is one of the most brilliant books I've ever read. Yeah, so I'm speechless. I'm blown away by that book, and that's the one I'm currently reading. That is it for me for this week. This was a long one. I hope I'll have a couple more books to talk about with you next week. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these. Let me know if you've read Fahrenheit 451. I know many of you have. I would love to hear your feedback on that. Don't tell me the ending yet, but let me know if you've read it and what you think, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.